Nightmare on the Runway, written by Carnes. My grandpa spat on the ground. The beads of saliva freezing before they could hit pavement. He set my brother and I to work scraping the ice off the wings, but I could hardly focus. Everything just felt sort of odd. It's hard to describe the feeling. It was almost like misplacing something you swear was just there a moment ago. While we worked, my grandma fell asleep in the plane, and it seemed we'd be spending the night on the runway. Later, as we were finishing up clearing the wings, I got a sudden desperate urge to pee. I started towards the gray building by the road.
No. Wait a minute. They're all shut up for the night. You go pee in those woods and be decent for once.
He growled at me. I walked to the edge of the runway and looked out at the shack in the distance. It looked even more decrepit on the ground. Wooden boards crisscrossed the pitched roof. One window was taped over with a trash bag. My brother bumped me closer.
Just go, dude. What are you doing?
Get out of here, it's freezing, I told him. I pushed him back and walked to the edge of the field. As I reached the grass, I glanced back and my grandpa and brother were climbing back into the plane for warmth. That's when I made the mistake. I looked straight ahead at the shack. That's when I saw him. A tiny human man's face in the window was staring back at me. His cheeks were taut and gray with sunken dark eyes. What was left of his hair were singular long strands hanging down over his empty, jaw-slacked expression. Snow swirled around the window frame, and he receded deeper into the pitch blackness of the shack. I couldn't move. I squeezed my eyes shut, my heart pounded away. I could feel warmth running down my pant leg. I ran back to the plane and hid under the blankets. By the next morning, my family still hadn't noticed the pee. They could also hardly believe what I had seen. I tried to tell them about the ghoulish man I saw. They figured he was some down-on-his-luck caretaker for the runway.
You ought to be grateful. Not everyone has a home like you do,
my grandpa said. At that point, sunlight had warmed things up considerably. Most of the snow had melted off the runway. My grandpa and I met a runway attendant as he was unlocking the front gates. He was more than a bit shocked to see us and asked how we managed to land.
We were closed all last night, he said. How did you know we were here?
Now, what are you talking about? Somebody gave us the go-ahead over radio. Maybe it was the guy in the shack, I said. My grandpa nudged me hard. The runway attendant gave me a funny look.
You mean that old shack out there? Last guy who lived there died in a plane crash 9 years ago.
My grandpa stared down at me, his face ghostly pale. I knew I would never take that plane for granted again.